In this module, I'm going to be talking about input operations and output operations in a computer program. Pretty much input and output are a couple of your most basic operations you will do on a computer, where output is displaying some sort of message to the user, usually by sending the output to the computer screen, and then input is receiving some sort of input from a computer user, where normally the input will be provided by typing at the keyboard. And I'm going to be describing the commands that are used to perform these operations. I'll start out by talking about output. Normally, to perform output, you're going to use some sort of print command in your program, and you will specify what gets printed. I have some examples up here on the board. Our top example, we're using a print command, and then we're going to print this message to the screen, and pretty much this will display exactly as it's typed in between the two quotes. That's a simple print. Now, if we're going to do print operations where we're utilizing variables, then you have to specify the variable name in the print operation. One example I have here, let's say I have a variable named x that's a value of 10, and I say print the result is, then close quotes on that, comma, and then I put x. What it does in this operation is it will take the value of x and display that as the output. So like here, this print command will display the result is 10. Next, if you're working with a text string, you have name equals the person's name, and you'll say print the user is, close quote, comma, and then put the variable name, and then it puts that result there. The user is Mike. Now those are basic operations. One final one to consider on output is, what if you're working with a floating point value? When working with floating point values, you have to use formatting commands in order to get the results you want. Let's say, for instance, we have a variable y, which is equal to 89.762349. But when I display this, I only want to display the first two decimal places right here. So I just want to display the 89.76. To do that, you're going to have to do some sort of format operation on this value in order to get the result you want. For instance, it would be something like print the value is. Then we will do a format command at the end. Now, to give an example of a format command, the formatting can vary greatly from one programming language to another. So what I'll do is I'll just use a hypothetical style. Like, let's say our format will be, where this gets, I'll say we carry this back here, where format, and we'll say something like that right there, where we're saying we're going to display the value, the point, and then two decimal places as a floating point value. So then whenever we do the output for this, the result will look like the value is 89.76, like that. In this example I'm showing here, I'm keeping this pretty generic because these formatting statements here will vary significantly across programming languages. Now let's turn to input. Input is performed whenever you want to receive some sort of input from the user, most frequently by having them type something in at the keyboard, whether it be some sort of text value or a numeric value. All the input statements work approximately the same, but with input you have to specify the data type that you're going to have the user input. So let's say I'd start with a simple example like name equals input enter your name. So in this command, I'm performing an input. I prompt them, enter your name, and then whenever they type in at the keyboard and hit enter, whatever they type in will get put into the variable name. Now this is okay for inputting just an ordinary text that will be stored as a string. If we cross over and start doing math operations, we actually have to specify in the input that we're going to have them enter mathematical values. Let's say, for instance, we'll do something like x equals, and here I will do input int like in this case, let's say I'll say input int, enter your age. And then they'll type in a number and it gets stored in X right here. The input operations can vary very significantly from one programming language to another. So like if you're programming in Python, your input commands look totally different than if you're programming in Java or if you're programming in C++. This is one style of doing the input right here. Now there's an alternate style where you can actually have, instead of having an input prompt like this, you just have an input command and then you actually have to display the prompt yourself separately. Like let's say I put print, enter the value. Then I follow that up with, let's say, y equals input float, and this designates that it's a function, and then it will display enter a value at the prompt, and then the user will type in a number at the keyboard, and then the value will be entered as a floating point value, and then it's stored in the variable y. And that will give you an input for a floating point number.